Welcome back to the round table. Only got Brian with me returning. Got three new people. Kirk, everybody thinks he has a terrible taste in the movies. I also agree sometimes, but we'll see tonight. We got Tim, that loves every movie that's ever been created and hardly hates any and refuses to use half stars. And then Jake, if you're watching Top 100 Scenes, I don't know if he likes them. But we'll see what he picks and what he brings to the table tonight. Brian, you're back. How you feeling? You excited to do another one?
I am also considered to have very horrible taste in this community, but strangely very different than Kirk, so I'm not quite sure how that works.
Fair. Kirk, I kind of insulted you. That was kind of rude to welcome you to the show and then insult you. But it's kind of how our friendship is at this point. You beat me in a match, and I'm still pissed about it, if you can't tell. How are you doing tonight? I'm excited to have you on. I've told people you don't have terrible taste. Your 3.5s are people's 5 stars. Like, that's just how it is. And I think that's the best way to look at it. So are you excited for the show? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. We scheduled this a month ago. I didn't realize the Steelers were playing the late game tonight. That's okay. I can miss it. At least I'll miss the first half. I can live with that. But no, I'm excited to be on. When you announced you were doing the show, I was kind of set up for the proto episode that never happened, the lost episode. So I'm glad you finally got me on, so we can at least see how it goes.
The only one missing from that first episode was the person that couldn't make this episode. And his name's Scott Harvey. Tim, lover of all films.
Yes.
Seen more. You've seen Lord of the Rings probably more times than I've seen some movies. Yeah. So, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I just got done watching the Lord of the Rings TV show actually right before this. I still have one episode left, but Maggie and I were binging it and watching it. So me and Bucky are here to talk about some movies tonight. We're excited.
And to hit our quota of one person from not the United States, Jake. Hopefully we'll get the Australian viewers, and from we got our so we'll see what we can do. Hoping spring carries from last episode and now Australia. How do you think you're going to do tonight? Not how you're going to do, but how are you?
That's
sorry. This is not why I left.
So what was your question?
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, I watched the last movie last night, so 12 hours ago, so I feel ready and to talk about movies. And it's great. I hadn't seen any of them except for the one I picked, which we'll get into.
I hadn't seen any of them at all.
That's the same way with me. I've only seen the one that I picked. So it's going to be an interesting episode. So we'll just go around the round table and say what movie you brought. I brought Doubt. Jake?
The Ken Russell movie I picked was Altered States.
Brian.
I picked the 1991 action comedy with Michael J. Fox and James Woods, The Hard Way.
Kirk?
I'm not going to release dates. I think my movie's also 1991. I went with Bugsy.
Okay. I think the first one the same year. Who cares? And Tim.
I went with 1995's 12 Monkeys, the year of Tim.
It was a heavy 90s episode of how I kind of figured. There were 3 movies from the 90s, so it was interesting to go down that rabbit hole. The first movie we're going to just start with, just get it out of the way. We're going to go with Bugsy. So Kirk, take us through your framework of why you picked it and your initial thoughts when you first saw it, I guess.
Yeah, a couple of reasons. I've seen this. I saw it close to when it came out, probably mid-90s. The first time I saw it, haven't seen it since. Couple reasons I picked it. One was because Warren Beatty is an actor. I picked a handful of actors this year to kind of just go deeper into and rewatch some stuff I hadn't seen in a while. And this is one of the movies I had on my list for him. And also because it's on brand for me. It's true crime gangster story. Bugsy Siegel is the inspiration for the character Mowgli in The Godfather. So just getting the real life aspects of that were kind of interesting me. So I thought, hey, let's all check it out.
Yeah, so I'll just kick it off. I know a lot about Bugsy Malone just from the the setup, but I didn't know this movie. I had no clue about it. I found it very interesting. There were things I really liked from this movie, and there's things I just didn't like. but I was curious what everybody else thought of your guys' initial because the director of this, Barry Levinson, is that right? Is that who did it? So I'm interested because I know Brian from previous. You're just not a huge crime guy. So what did you think about this going into it?
Well, this is one of two movies this week that I had never seen. I'm kind of the same way. Warren Beatty's a big blind spot with me. I think before this year, I'd seen only like 4 movies he was in, and I've already watched 3 so far this year. This being one of them. But yeah, it's everybody knows it's no secret that crime's not my genre. So I just avoided this one. But I watched it for this, and I actually ended up quite enjoying it. It's the kind of thing. It's not simply just another crime rise to power kind of story. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but it seemed like it had a little bit more. I mean, there's the love story, of course, of the Annette Bening. There's kind of his obsession with Hollywood and trying to become an actor and stuff like that. You get a little bit of Get Shorty kind of angle to it. So I was surprisingly enjoyed this one.
Yeah, Tim.
I'll just jump in. I didn't love this. I didn't know a lot about Bugsy Malone. Like, I knew the name, and I knew the name of the movie. Also, when the movie started, I read that it was like the director's name came up, and in my brain, I read Barry Sonnenfeld, very different director.
Yeah.
And so the whole time I was like, this is a weird movie for Barry Sonnenfeld. And then I had to realize that was not who directed this film. But I actually found it really kind of scatterbrained almost. I didn't really love Warren Beatty in the role. I also haven't seen a ton of Warren Beatty movies, so my knowledge of him as an actor isn't super strong. But I felt like it was just way over the top, which I think is kind of the point. That was kind of the point, that he was kind of an over the top crazy person. But for some reason, I couldn't quite put my finger. I didn't think it was a terrible movie by any means. There's a lot of really, really great things about it. I thought the score was really, really great. The production design. There was something about it the whole time where it just wasn't clicking with me the way that it seems to be clicking with other people.
I think we have a difference of feeling because I thought Warren Beatty was great in the role of Bugsy, and now the more that Kirk said Mo Green from Godfather, I got now the vibe checks the box completely for me because that's exactly who he reminded me of the entire time watching it. The part I couldn't stand, and I may be the only one, I didn't think Annette Bening was that great in this movie. I thought she was very drug me down in the film when she showed up because I liked the overall Ben Kingsley. I love the inner mob stuff, the inner hey when the whole scene when he shows up and he's at the he's cooking, right? And they're sitting there, and he sells the thing, which is an over-the-top scene, crazy, which I can see where Tim's feeling.
I thought it was so weird. He's walking around with the chef's hat on. I'm like, what's going on here, man?
And then the whole sell for the hotel, I was like, this is where this he's crazy, he's over the top, he's such a good salesperson because he convinces all these people to agree with him and go with money and all that stuff, but have no the way to it's only $1 million. Well, why the end of the million? It's $6 million and all that stuff. Jake, your overall thoughts of the film because did you haven't seen it, so
I don't know why, but this panelist is apparently just people who hadn't seen a lot of Warren Beatty movies because I'm also the same in that sense. I think Bonnie and Clyde is a massive blind spot for me. I think the only other Beatty movie I'd seen was Ishtar, to be honest, and that was for a podcast. But yeah, I had known this movie, I had heard about it. Barry Levinson, director, it was nominated for 10 Oscars. But I just never, just gangster stuff. I'm kind of with Brian when it comes to crime, but specifically gangster films. Not really my favorite sort of thing. I just find a lot of it to just be macho men with super charisma, and that charisma is definitely a huge part of why these people were as big as they were and what they did, and especially the case with Bugsy. But yeah, like I just was just kind of uninterested in what was going on. Like the romance is very one-sided, and I do like sort of the idea of it's about a guy coming up with the idea to build Las Vegas and sort of the inception of that. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And I kind of wish that
that's
was
my
more
favorite
to the
part of it.
movie.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say. That's the most interesting stuff in the movie is the Las Vegas stuff. To me, I thought was really cool, and then like her stealing the money and like all that stuff. Like that was what I was like interested in. It was all the other, like Cody brought up, like the scene where he's cooking and like his and his wife who he's getting a divorce with. That like at the end of the day, it like didn't like it mattered, but like I didn't feel like it mattered. Like I just didn't. I think another problem with it was like, and I don't like, there's sometimes you watch a movie and it's hard for you to tell how much time is passing in the world of the film. This was one of those where I was like, I couldn't tell if from where we started to where we ended, it could have been 30 years and I would have had no idea. Or it could have been like 5 years and I would have had no idea. It was just like, it felt very all over the place because so much was happening. And it was just honestly at a certain point kind of hard to follow. Like
I feel like that a lot of the stuff with like him just like cooking and his kid's birthday party, and then like with the family and his divorce and things like that. I feel like a lot of that was trying to make him seem like, oh, this is just some normal guy, at heart. So he's just normal, but he's like in this extreme situation. And I mean, I respect that approach, I guess, because when it comes to gangster films, a lot of times you get that cartoonish, over the top thing, like Al Pacino in Scarface, or even in something like Goodfellas, which is another one that's a good movie, just not for me. I think that Robert De Niro really plays that very, he's kind of this larger than life character. So I think in this one, it's kind of like hey, here's this dude who just happens to be in the mob.
Yeah.
I think I would have been more in the movie because of like I know Bugsy because like my family was very centered in Las Vegas for a long time, like period of their life. So like the thought of like the building of the strip and stuff, I thought was so fascinating. But like it's a side piece of what Bugsy like. He did the fact and got taken out for the reason, but like it was like the side mission of like playing a video. Like it didn't really impact anything. We overheard it, we saw it, we didn't really like get to the meat and potatoes. I thought was like I get to like it tonally like changed at times for me, like when he was that crazy, but like when he goes to the like LA house the first time and he's like, how much for the house? Well, it's not for sale. Like he walked in, he's like large and like he doesn't look intimidating, but like the people that know him and like how sporadic and how crazy he is, like how quick he is to like jump like thing. That's why the guy like, and it just seemed like he was never like consistent with that. I thought he was good, but maybe that's how Bugsy was as a real person.
I liked that moment when he comes
Really,
to
me
the
too.
LA house at the beginning and he was like the setup I enjoyed quite a bit where he was like, they called him Bugsy or whatever, and he was like, there's no need to call like name call or whatever. He's like, it's Ben, like call me Ben or whatever. And they were like, Mr. Malone, it's Ben, like that, I was like, okay, like this is intimidating.
Yeah, and then I don't remember which scene it was, but somebody else was like really scared. He was like, oh, don't worry, we only kill each other. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I feel like I liked my favorite part of the character was when he had the Mussolini plot. Like I was obsessed with killing Mussolini.
He was gonna go over there and kill him. Yeah,
and I just
that was pretty interesting.
and that's why like I've been watching a lot of Beatty, and like he hasn't like super impressed me as an actor. He's not bad or anything, but he hasn't done anything where I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I thought this is probably the best role he played, but I think it was so perfect for him because of kind of his I don't know how like deserved his reputation as kind of like an airheaded himbo. And like that's who Bugsy was. Like that's who this character was. So I think like this was the perfect gangster for him to play. And like just how he's like, like he thinks like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of like murders in my house and it's my daughter's birthday and I can switch back and forth and yeah, I can handle that. That's no big deal, And just that kind of person. I think I feel like that was like he was consistent in his inconsistency where he was just kind of scatterbrained all over the place.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the most interesting thing about the character is that it's I really liked Beatty. I don't know about everyone, but I thought he worked pretty well for this movie, for the character. And I think because the character is very similar to him, I think the most interesting thing about Warren Beatty is that he's like a masterful producer. Like from ever since Bonnie and Clyde, and on to even Rules Don't Apply. Yeah, but he has bad. Yeah, I didn't want to say because I didn't say the first.
It's a bad movie.
But just the way that he has taken himself with each decade and has become like this big. I mean, he doesn't really do anything anymore, but like the way he was able to build himself as a producer, that's like his like crowning jewel, like as someone in Hollywood. Like him as a director, writer, and actor, like he's done everything. I mean, he won Best Director, but it's just like crazy to see a film called Red. From the 80s. He beat Spielberg
long and got so many cast members. Like that's like a who's who of like who's in that movie. It's crazy. I've never seen it, but I know of it.
Just the way that he plays Bugsy is very similar to how Beatty like makes movies, and like he's known for his like attention to detail and the fact that he slept with like so many women. Like it's very much like a character that Beatty has already been playing before.
I think it's also interesting with this movie is like, because I haven't seen a lot of him, so I can't speak of it, but like Bonnie and Clyde, he's got such strong cast around him that he does like this is like him having to stand alone. So it's sporadic, which is Bugsy, but I think that's where some of the inconsistencies lied, or because I don't think he's that strong of an actor. Like overall, I'm not sold on him being like the man, but like when you look at his Hollywood career, the man got attention from a lot of people to be the man. So it's interesting. I think overall, the Barry Levinson did a good job directing this. I think overall, the only part that I thought was, and I think most people will agree, the ending of this, like the shots, like was the most like dramatic like kill scene I've ever seen in like a movie.
You're talking about?
Yes, like. He's doing like when you're on the playground and you shoot your friend, like the slow turn. I'm like, yeah, and like every like shot they like went in and had to like show how many like times he was like shot until you shot in the face, and like you'd see them like terrible look. Like I was like, he could have just died. Like like it was like such a dramatic part where I'm just like. At that point, it's not like it took me out because I know he dies from that. But I'm like,
I think that kind of goes back to they set that up where how he was so hard to kill. Like he had that scene with with the guy at the bar. He's like I can't even kill me, and I think it's almost like the Sonny Corleone thing where you have to show like you have to do the overkill because of how they've been set up as being so tough and so invulnerable that you can't just do like one quick kill shot. It has to be like a big dramatic death.
That makes sense, I guess, a little bit, but it took me out. But
I'm curious to know because Kirk, you said you saw this in the 90s and you picked it because you wanted to rewatch it and see how it would hold up. Did it hold up for you, or like what? Like,
yeah, I mean, I definitely. I mean, I was a teenager last time I watched this, so I have a totally different perspective, and I've seen so many more movies, and just like a better understanding who this character was. So kind of knowing. When I watched it originally, I really don't think I understood like the kind of character he was pulling off, like how he was kind of supposed to be a joke, not a joke, but kind of just like flighty, like he was. So I think I probably took a little more seriously. I think I got more enjoyment out of it, understanding who this character was and how he was kind of just scatterbrained all over the place. Did a little bit more for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I was.
I have a question. So I went into this knowing that Keitel and Kingsley were nominated for Best Supporting Actor. How do we feel about those two? Because I have to say I don't think either should have got the nods because I think it was.
Yeah,
I think they're good, but they don't like elevate their performance.
I didn't know that until after I saw the movie. I looked that up. I didn't know it was nominated for anything. I seriously had no.
Not even 10. I think it was like the second most nominated that year.
I was sitting there like. This is like whatever a movie I thought was fine basically at the end of the day, and I looked on IMDb and I was like, holy shit, when I was looking at the awards. And funniest thing ever was I then went on Letterboxd to read everybody else's review, and Kaleb Koho was like, Ben Kingsley and Harvey Keitel were fucking amazing, and I was like, get out of here. But anyway, love you, Koho. But I thought Kingsley was better.
I don't.
I mean, it's fair. I thought Kingsley was better than Keitel, but I would agree that neither of them, like, I thought it wasn't until that final scene with Kingsley where they're like at the table and they were like, well, what if he doesn't pay us or get the money back? Or like, what if it's a failure? And Kingsley's like, then I'll take care of it. That was the moment where I was like, okay, he's really good in this movie. But there was no moment where Keitel, like, I love Harvey Keitel, but like, he was great, but like, he's not like, oh my God, he needs to be nominated.
My viewpoint on it is Kingsley, Kirk is a famous critic for this. He bounced out of whatever accent, he like had one every scene, and it
Not
was
as bad
different.
as Matt Betting did.
I fully agree. I fully agree. That's why Q drove me absolutely like it was like every scene they showed up, I was like, "Is this the same?" Like I had to pause at one point. It's like, "Is this the same actress?" Like that was talking because I was like, "This is not who was here previously. This is another woman." It was crazy how bad. And Keitel again. I don't know what was on nominated. I didn't really look up that stuff on this one, but yeah, I could say like. Depending on the year and who was there, maybe they deserved a little bit.
I don't know who else.
I would say that I think they're both good for this movie. I think they're both
Kingsley's clearly the outstanding one.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Yeah,
I think they're both really fun in this movie and like really good for this movie. But I don't think there's anything so spectacular in either performance that they deserve to get nominated.
It also showed how clueless and how you said about just a side tangent about how Bugsy was about the airhead like back and forth because how clueless he was at the very end too.
Oh yeah,
like goes into his house, knows something doesn't like
Was
how
he?
he's looking around the house. Yeah, what do you mean?
I didn't feel that way. I felt like when he makes that phone call and he says like I'm going to LA, but make sure that what's her face, whose name Annette Bening is taken care of, and don't sell your shares. When he's like, you're gonna regret it if you sell your shares. That's him saying that he knew that if he went back to LA, he was gonna die.
No, I know, but how he's in the car with Keitel and he says like the stuff and he's like, I don't want to talk about that. And he like walks around and he's like looking all excited when he walks in his house, but he sees something like he's at least if I took like body language at all when he enters the house, he like seems like something is up like in his house. Like he takes a pause and like looks around, like doesn't really know what's going on, but then just goes on with his life, like and then he dies from later on and with the phone call. So he seems like carefree, even though he does like he has no awareness that he's $6 million now, even more on this hotel. Like the people are going to get angry. Like he has no clue. Harvey Keitel has cut him out like right away. He's like, I don't want to talk. Like we're done. Like,
we're not.
And it's like he's still clueless about the thing. So I thought that was interesting.
That's
but
fair. That makes sense.
I do feel that actually from Tim, like the phone call when it's like, can you just do one favor for me? Can you make sure that she's safe? Like I definitely felt like he kind of knew that this is the end for him. But then, as you were saying, Cody, like the way he was entering his house, it felt almost. He's
like just an inconsistent. He finally
maybe
realizes
that's just a character, but it was definitely an interesting choice. I was going to say like the nods of the year is very weird. It's the Jack Palance year where he did the push up where he won Slickers, which is a crazy win in and of itself. But you got Tommy Lee Jones for JFK and Michael Lerner for Barton Fink, who was really good in like how small he's in that movie. And the other two are the Bugsy performances.
And what's weird about Cartel getting nominated here, this is the only Oscar nomination Cartel's ever gotten.
Yeah. The 100%.
Cartel? The Cartel would nominate
the Cartel?
Cartel for Bugsy.
Oh, God. That's his trivia name. He entered, he would be Harvey the Cartel Keitel.
Last thing is
the next thing.
I think Kingsley is also like a certain level of he's a great actor in pretty much everything he does. I mean, things like Love.
I guess if you think true, if you want to think about it, I guess when you think of him, he's more of like the character actor. Like when he pops up, like he's not a lead man. He doesn't ride the like. But I think back to like Pulp Fiction, where clearly as the wolf, like that's a great performance. When he like that could have easily been like but you know.
And from Keitel's first scene, I was super distracted by the bad hair and makeup, by the way.
Maybe if the Oscars had a fan voted best moment, he could have.
Well, here, you know what?
Zack Snyder
we can just say this. We can say this here: the Oscars sucks. Overall, they get things wrong all the time. Let's be real. And if you put it in your reviews that this person should be nominated all the time, you're one of the worst. Koho, talking to you. Anyways, so we'll go around real quick, get everybody's like ratings overall in the movie, like on what you guys give it, because on the show, but we don't know how anybody feels about it before we start talking about it. So I leave that a mystery till the very end of it. I'm going to start. I'm at 3. I was trying to do 3.5, but I'm at 3 because there was so much. There was stuff I really liked. There was also inconsistencies that drove me a little bit crazy throughout it, and I think it was like tonally like imbalanced a little bit. Like it scene to scene just didn't feel like connected almost at times. Jake.
Yeah, I was torn between 3 and 3.5, and I was like, there's stuff that I really like, but there are stuff that just really dragged it for me, and I kind of lost interest at points. I'm gonna go with 3 stars for me.
And again, just to let everybody know, don't feel bad when you bring stuff on here. I brought a movie on the very first week that I thought people would love, and I got shit on, and it was a sad day. But overall, this is just movies. Like what movies you like. Brian.
As much as people would think it'd be the other way around, I did enjoy this one more than the other Bugsy Malone portrayal that year, or Bugsy Siegel, which is Richard Grieco in Mobsters. So talk about that. I was kind of the same way. I'm kind of at 3.5. The Las Vegas stuff, especially, I wanted to bump it up to 3.5, but I ended up settling on a 3.
That's 5 stars for Kirk. Kirk, where are you at on this?
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up on my rewatch will probably be 3.5. I did enjoy. I do think there were a few things, a little performance wise. I think there were some odd editing choices. So it's not. I didn't think it was like a great movie, but I think overall it was a fun watch. It was pretty breezy to watch. So yeah, probably ended up being 3.5 for me. And I'm glad Brian. Honestly, like when I thought I'm going to bring a crime movie. Like I was like, I know Tim and Cody would be okay with it. I figured Jake would, Jake's down for whatever. So I specifically thought, what will be palatable for Brian? So I'm glad Brian didn't hate it.
Yeah,
I don't
Tim,
usually hate them. I just don't usually.
I was actually riding the 2-star train for most of the movie, but I really did enjoy the Las Vegas stuff. I thought that elevated the movie a lot for me in the last hour or so. So I gave it a 3.
All right. So the very next movie that we're going to be talking about, we're going to kind of keep the same name. We're going to go the hard way. The hard way is the next one we're going to talk about. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. So my role on this panel or this show, as far as I can see it, is to make people watch underseen movies. And this is another one. This is one of those 90s movies. When action comedies were, a dime a dozen back then. Michael J. Fox and James Woods, both kind of at the heights of their career. You had John Badham, who's directed everything from Saturday Night Fever to Stakeout films and War Games and some other stuff. So he's kind of having a varied career. But this is one that I saw back in 1991. And it is just so much fun. I love this movie. I love the comedy, and I actually even love the action of it. But it all comes down to the chemistry between Michael J. Fox and James Woods. I think they're both kind of playing heightened versions of themselves. I mean, he's Michael J. Fox is basically playing if Marty McFly became an actor. He's got the same kind of neuroses and things like that, but now he's this big, powerful Hollywood actor. For anyone who hasn't seen it, he wants to do this, gritty crime film. He wants to try and earn this part be taken seriously as an actor. And so he arranges to have this, basically follows around James Wood, who we saw in the news, like this just a gritty, hardcore, take no shit cop. He's got, this huge temper. He just, so he wants to follow him around. Of course, the personalities conflict and wackiness ensues. But yeah, this is just a movie. It's got a great cast top to bottom from Michael J. Fox and James Woods. Of course, Stephen Lang plays the villain in this. It wasn't his first time as a villain, and certainly wasn't his last time playing a villain. He's chewing up every scene he's in as the party crasher. Annabelle Shiора's in it. You got Luis Guzman, LL Cool J, even Christina Ricci has a small part in it, one of her earliest parts, as Annabelle Shiора's daughter. But yeah, this is just a movie that I think that a lot of people might have heard of, but not a lot of people have seen, at least in this community. Not a lot of people have it logged. And so I wanted to share it and make everyone else watch it.
I'm going to be real honest with you. I thought this movie was a fake movie at first. This poster does not look real. I'm going to be real. Like, when you clicked it, I was just like, this is like nowadays if you put 2 actors, like, I want to see them in this movie. And I was like, wow. I'm going to say my opinion. I'm going to go initial thoughts for everybody else. So go ahead and talk about what you guys thought, and then I'll tag in at the end.
This movie's awesome. This is a great fucking movie. Brian brought this up on Logged It months ago, and I remember liking the pitch that he gave then.
But nobody watched it since, so I brought it up again.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought it up because I really enjoyed it. Like, is this movie really dumb? Yeah, like it's really stupid, but I had so much fun watching it. I actually haven't seen a ton of Michael J. Fox. So it was like it's pretty much like Back to the Future, and then like season 1 of the Michael J. Fox. Stuart Little, yeah, exactly. So like I really enjoyed him, and same with James Woods. Like obviously like Hercules, but like as far as like live action stuff, like I don't know a ton of James Woods. I don't know how much I've seen, and I just thought they were really fun together. I like the whole angle of this like this overzealous actor that like is just like such an idiot, but also has like at the end of the day like a heart of gold, like kind of coming in and like wanting to like learn how to like it's what Hollywood actor, like an idiot Hollywood actor would do. Be like, oh, I'm gonna go find the most grizzled like cop and then like follow him around. And then I was actually interested in like what was going on like with the crimes and in and of itself. Like I thought Stephen Lang was really good, like the whole thing at the end. I was super into. Like this was just one of those movies where like I know that if it like came out today, I would take Maggie to the theater, we would see it, the movie would end, and she would go, that was fucking dumb. And then I would go, I loved it. And then I would buy it on Blu-ray, watch it once, and never see it again. So I had a really fun time with it, but I do admit there's a lot of stupidity to it, but I can't deny like this was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, it definitely gets cartoonish at times.
Oh, 100%. But
I totally feel like this James Woods performance was the template for Hades, honestly.
That's fair because honestly, like all you have to do, like I was talking to spoiler for when we're shooting this, we shoot a month ahead of time, but like Black Adam just came out, and I told Nick over the weekend, I was like, all that movie needs to do to please me is have good action scenes, and I'll be fine. And that's kind of how I feel about this type of movie, is that like if the action's good and I like the lead characters, like I'm going to be able to make it through the 2-hour runtime. And I liked the lead characters, and I thought the action scenes and the comedy was good. So I was there for it.
I had heard of this movie because actor Griffin Newman, who also has a podcast Blank Check, tried to buy the rights to this movie. I don't know if he actually did, but he had always pitched like he had a great idea to remake this movie. So I'd heard of it from there. I thought it was okay. I admit like that. I mean, Brian was alluding to it and had said, but like the 90s, early 90s, like late 80s, those was just like the pinnacle of the amount of buddy cop crime movies that they were making at the time. And I just found it to be just honestly just another one of those. Just the thing that makes this one shine compared to the others is like the chemistry between Fox and Woods. I think James Woods is like, I really like him as an actor, but I just do not really care and want to stay far away from him as a person. I think like just the fact that he is a like legitimately a great actor, and just like this performance is very much like a James Woods like character that he would play. But then you look at a performance like The Virgin Suicides, where he's playing like the exact opposite of this type of character. It just makes you go, this guy's like really, really good. But I do think that he is at least my favorite part of the movie. Just like everything that he says, I'm just like glued to the screen. I'm like, just the way he says it, the way he's just the performance, the cadence, like just everything about him is just like balls to the wall, over the top. And he's just angry cop, but like played by James Woods, which is like 10 times angrier. But I found him to be just definitely my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, I never saw this movie because like ever since it came out, I always thought it just looked like, you know, every buddy cop movie from the 90s. And I watched it, like the opening scene was great. Like I love, like there's a shot of Stephen Lang driving his car, and it's just like really, it's like really nice looking. And I think the opening action set piece is really, really well done. From that point on, though, it kind of does become every buddy cop movie from the 90s. Like there are like a lot of the cliches and cliche characters and stuff like that. I think Stephen Lang is great as a villain. I just wish he was a little more fleshed out. And yeah, Woods I think is a standout performance. There are certain moments in that, and I think if this movie had been taken a look, because that's what I thought when it started, like with the way, like that opening credits with the billboard going up and the lights and everything. I thought like, oh, maybe there's gonna be some like style to this movie, and some of the stuff they do, like that scene in the subway with James Woods where he's walking up on the guy, that looked like something from a Michael Mann movie. Like if that, like a movie with a different tone, like that totally could have been a totally different thing. So I mean, like he got me through it. Like I said, Stephen Lang got me through it, and the end action part was cool. I like how it kind of like the meta aspect of how like it mirrored, like they were in the movie theater watching the movie. Yeah, and, like kind of the same things happen in the actual finale for them. It's kind of, so I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, I mean, I liked it more than I thought I was going to do, because like I said, usually I just don't like these buddy action cop movies. But like I said, especially James Woods really did a lot to kind of elevate it.
You just reminded me, Kirk. Sorry, Cody. You just reminded me like the end of the movie that you were just bringing up about how like it reflects. One of my favorite movies of this year is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and that reminded me a lot of that movie, where it was like the meta style of like them seeing a movie at the end and everything. Spoiler for that movie, I guess, but not really. But it reminded me a lot of that. It had similar vibes in that type of way. So that was something I thought of while watching it.
So I was mixed going in overall. Again, I didn't think the movie was real. I'm not a Michael J. Fox fan, I would say. I love the Back to the Future series. Like that is like some of my favorite movies of all time. This man left the set and the same guy showed up to set. Like this is like, I've seen Michael J. Fox act in other things, but he is completely Marty McFly, just like in a different setting, and that hindered the performance for me at times. Like his way over the top. The person I loved in this movie was James Woods. I think he was absolutely phenomenal in this, and he treated him exactly how I would want to treat him throughout this entire experience. Like you're putting me on this case to have this guy who wants a gun, blah, blah. This goofiness that plays, I think Steve Lang, it's kind of like Bugsy for me a little bit. Like they like leaned full into like the wild and crazy, like, but then they backed a little bit off at times. Again, maybe I want more Steve Lang in it. I overall didn't hate the movie. I was watching it the entire time yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, Tim is going to love this movie. Like, it's my exact response to that. I was like, I'm watching this, I was like, Tim is lit. Like, Brian just unlocked a movie for Tim, and like, it's happening. And I know. I was sitting there, I was like, and looking at his track, like, I was looking at the director, because I have not seen what he directed, and every poster looks exactly like The Hard Way. Like, and like he's done, like they knew who they were getting to do this movie. But I think it was a little darker than I expected it would be. I think it was a little bit. I think it was like it had so many interesting things that I guess this movie I had zero expectations for. I was like, Brian picked this ridiculous 90s movie with James Wood and Michael J. Fox. It's probably going to be out there. But at the end of the day, I still had a smile on my end of his face. I was enjoying what was happening. I think Michael J. Fox is not great in the movie overall. I think like every time he had to like draw out a line or scream it longer than he ever needed to, like he would just it drove me absolutely nuts. Shut the fuck up. But overall, a lot of fun in this movie. I like the ending too. I think the ending was what saved the movie for me a little bit, because I think that's so interesting, and I want to know how much it costs to like make that Michael J. Fox like stand thing that they're fighting on at the end, like, and like where he's featured and stuff, like how he's an actor. Like no one, like, you can't even pass that. We all know it's Michael J. Fox, but to pass like he's actually an actor is funny. Yeah, this movie had like so many things. James Wood, I didn't think of even the Hades thing until right now, and you're 100% right. Like he's mean as shit in this movie, and it's great. Yeah. Like
he's a typical Cody Newberry character.
This movie had real like Cody
the way to Michael J. Fox you are to like Koho, you know.
Yeah. This is Cody Boho's situation, definitely.
I feel like you talked about like how it was darker than you thought. I kind of feel like that might be actually something that kind of set it above what it could have been, because it very easily could have been like a PG-13, just silly comedy. Or if they tried to make this a straight drama, it wouldn't have worked. I mean, at least not with Michael J. Fox. I don't think it would have worked. But I think by making it as R-rated comedy, which Michael J. Fox didn't do R-rated comedies, he did all kinds of stuff, but I mean, except for I think Frighteners was R. But as far as his comedies, I don't think he's done the other R-rated ones.
Yeah, he said he drops an F-bomb into some like. I don't think I've ever heard Michael J. Fox say that before.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him do like dramas like Casualties of War and stuff like that, but not like this. But I think that by making it kind of this darker tone to it, it kind of, I mean, makes it so it's not just kind of a throwaway silly comedy, but also I think it feels like it's more stakes because like it is this actor who thinks that everything's just a game going in there and find out, oh shit, this is real. So I thought it kind of worked.
That's what I thought. Like when they did the
when they faked him out.
Yeah, the twist, I guess you could say, like
that was
thing, like
out of nowhere.
I actually felt for him. Like I think that's what like honestly will take the mark between like a average like funny comedy to me, like a 3-star to a 4-star, I guess, is like they kind of there's that type of trope and like I could see coming from a mile away that somehow James Woods was gonna be so much of a dick that he was gonna, betray Michael J. Fox, and then they were gonna have to come back together. But like, I didn't see it coming that way. And when it happened, like, I genuinely felt for the dude. Like, it was effective, and so it helped me like kind of realize that I liked the movie a lot more than just like a dumb 3-star comedy, because like I actually cared about what was happening with the characters by the end.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see the twist either fully coming. Like, I think, again, and like I try to like do my best to like I try to take some notes so like I can have some talking points for the show and stuff. Like, again, I'm with you, Tim. Like, I think if they don't have that, or if Brian said it, if they don't make it as dark as they kind of do, I think this movie falls like very short of what it could be. And I think that's what set the movie up a star for me almost in the watching, because like everybody in the movie's overacting like to a degree, but this is the kind of movie that's supposed to have those overacting. Like, if anybody was trying to, even James Wood is as much of a dick as he is, if he was too much of a straight man on it, I don't think it would like, or didn't like accentuate like him drawing on the posters and like making those stupid like, well, like the comedy of locking him on the bed and like stay like those stupid things. Like, those are, and like the police chief like saying, "Oh, come in here." You like, no, I'm not giving you. My wife's a big fan of you. Like, it's just like they like lean into so much stuff on this. Young LL Cool J on this movie too. I thought that was neat.
This is the movie that gave us "Mama Said Knock You Out."
Mama Said Knock, which is they use that movie. Yeah. They use the song twice, which thank God, because that is awesome.
Yeah,
but no, I as far as like that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Sure. As far as that twist goes, I think that's kind of necessary too, because up until that point, at least for me anyways, like I was kind of like sympathizing way more with James Woods, because they just dropped this like vapid guy in his lap, and it's like he's going to upend your entire life and you have nothing to say about it. So I understood his frustration, and that's the point at which I'm like, okay, now I kind of feel bad for Michael J. Fox. I think you had to have something that extreme to get that there. And I noticed too, like throughout this movie, especially in the police station scenes, a lot of homages to Serpico, like even the way he's dressed when he comes in, and like the different rooms they're in, the way that and just the way they kind of like that scene where he walks in and like they're all laughing at him and telling the stories. Like, it felt it was shot a lot like a Serpico scene, but it felt a lot like Serpico too, just like him being on the outside and him having to feel that. You feel bad for him at that point. So I think you had to have Woods do something pretty bad to make you feel like, okay, now I feel bad for the actor who's kind of ruined this guy's life.
I was going to bring up something. What I don't know if this is a pet peeve or like a nitpick or just something that I liked when I watch movies like this that sort of have like a meta sort of thing to it. But I love when characters in the movie say, "This isn't like a movie. This is like real life." And I'm just like, it's a fucking movie.
And then like 10 things that only happen in movies.
Only happens in movies.
Yeah.
I do think that it being R-rated does help the movie in that it grounds it in some sort of level in reality, because like the movies that that Michael J. Fox is in the movie, the movies that he's making are like PG action, swashbuckling, that sort of stuff, and that completely contrasts with just the because it's New York, right? It takes place in New York.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole
It's
point. Is
just-
he's seen as this like family actor, and he wants to.
Yeah.
The studios don't see him as right for this gritty role. He wants to be taken seriously, so that's why he's trying to do this. Yeah.
And I like the fact that just New York is so just like gritty and urban and just like when he's looking, I don't know where like James Wood goes to like find information about the guy who sold the gun to the wedding crasher, and he's just like he's already doing like he's already picturing the scene and just like the way it's presented. It's like this is just really the way he's so like fixated on this like movie sort of like.
Well, I loved that at the end when he was it was the scene where they were watching the movie or whatever, and he in the movie is giving the same speech that James Wood gave earlier, like the real life thing. And I told him that.
17
That was my thing. I said that.
It's still my right. Yeah, my favorite scene honestly was actually the first time when James Woods met him, because he goes into the bathroom. And he like, and I love the point where like turns, and go, oh, you turn a little into there, but then he goes back and he's like, nope, I can't do it. I tried. I gave it a chance. I made it to the bathroom and back. Not if you drag me naked across glass in the back of your car. I just love that scene.
I would say too, though, going back to what you were saying, Jake, about the whole like it's not a movie thing. This gave me like I was thinking a lot about Last Action Hero when I was watching this. Had like kind of like those same elements to it, and that was my exact same pet peeve about that movie, where it's like the real world stuff was still very much like a movie, and I noticed some of that in here. But I do feel like you said, the R-rated kind of like the violence, like the fact that he actually gets shot, you see the blood splatter and everything, even though they're standing on paper mache and somehow it's holding the weight of 4 people. It's like okay, I could forgive that, but no, like I said, I definitely feel like it had more of that like contrast between real world and movie, especially like I said in that end scene. Where you see the two different takes, but it's still played with those tropes, like the ridiculousness of it still happening in the real world.
I just thought how much of a trope it is in Hollywood for a grizzled old cop to deal with young, inexperienced person. Should be a Warzone strength for people. I'm telling you, there's enough like thinking about those movies out there.
No,
like
that's Fandom category next year. That's like
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, Tim, can you add hardware? Come on.
Let's go do some law.
I was going to bring up
That might get Brian back.
Let's all go.
I think I said the wedding crasher. I meant the party crasher. How do we like Stephen Lang? He's playing essentially like a Hannibal Lecter in that sort of universe, sort of a serial killer in the sense of like I'm just gonna cause anarchy and I have my method.
I absolutely love the scene where he's in the back of the car and Michael J. Fox is like, you know what? I got an illness. I'm terminal. I'm dying. I don't have much to live, so why not? And like just drives through everything and thinks he's got him. He's like, no applause needed. Just doing the job or something like over the walkie. And Stephen Lang is still alive and fine, and he's about to beat the show. I thought it was interesting. I think he's good. I'm terrible with like actors and stuff like that. So when I see it, I was just like, who is that guy? I know that guy, but who is it? Like no frame of reference, like because I'm terrible at movie trivia. But I thought he was good. I thought it was good. I thought very Hannibal Lecter like vibes, but
Why would you say that? We almost beat the concept.
That's true. We almost did.
I think he was a great casting choice. I think he did good with what he had to work with. But this is the point I mentioned already. But his scenes, I wish this was a Michael Mann movie, because like if it would have been that type of movie, this would have been such a like Wayne Grove in Heat or something like that. Like that type of character. I think Stephen Lang has the chops to pull that off. I just don't think he had the opportunity. But like I think he was a great villain in this movie. But I think a lot was left on the table as to what they could have done with him.
It's funny because Stephen Lang's in Manhunter, and he's got in that scene where he gets killed by the Twohig. So was reminding of that. As
I totally forgot about that.
Lang.
I totally forgot about that too.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that movie. Anyway,
Great movie.
I love him as
Red Dragon better.
I love him in Tombstone.
but
that's
Tombstone.
crazy.
which one, Kirk?
Tombstone.
Oh, Tombstone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not crazy. I still stand by it, but that's fair. Red Dragon, go check it out.
Red Dragon's great too. Manhunter's better, but
That's not true. But we're gonna get scores for the hard way. Brian, I'm gonna start with you. I should have started with Kirk last time, but I'm gonna start with Brian because you brought it to the show.
I continue to give this 4 stars.
Okay, I'm gonna go Tim.
I also gave it 4 stars.
Jake.
That'll be 3 stars from me, dog.
Kirk.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3. This is, it really isn't my genre. It's not something that I love, but there was enough fun stuff in here to grasp onto. I'd give it a solid 3.
It's going to be a 3.5 for me. I had a good time with it. I would probably revisit it, honestly. I think it might go up on watch. So, middle of the show. I've done something 2 episodes in a row. I'm going to do it again. This one may have the most discussion or the least amount of discussion. Or some say we might be entering in like an altered state of this episode. Altered state, guys. Jake, take it away.
So I had seen this movie a couple years ago, just out of curiosity. I think it was in my Halloween sort of watch list that year, and I liked it a lot. Although I watched it late at night and I was sort of falling asleep, so my sort of attention to detail and to the movie was wearing off. So I wanted to give it a rewatch and give it a proper rewatch and feel like I missed on certain things and details. So I decided I picked it for this. Also, just like this is a movie that I knew based on Letterboxd, none of you had seen it, and I was very curious what kind of discussion the movie would bring out of everyone here. I don't think this is. And I think I can say this on behalf of you guys. I don't think this is kind of a movie that you actively try and find this sort of weird, sort of trippy, sort of visuals and craziness, sort of existential sort of dread that this movie sort of brings up and kind of discusses. I'm a big fan of that sort of stuff. That's just kind of my shit. I love films that make me question just everything about life and reality. And this movie kind of does that and sort of pushes the idea of the human consciousness and are we able to sort of bring back sort of memories and sort of the ideas that started with humanity, and can we even evolve to something even greater beyond what we are now? And I wanted to see what kind of the reaction that this movie would bring out of everyone here.
So, I'm just going to say this. 2 different shows that are also on this channel, Logged It Tuesdays, ADST, and YLS, ADST Wednesdays. Both shows I've been on, both shows when people bring stuff to the table that I absolutely despise, I try to literally beat the living shit out of them verbally and make them feel terrible about themselves. Roundtable's a different environment. I like to beat the shit out of the movie, not the person that brought it. When you said question life and humanity, I questioned my life during this film. I'm going to be real honest with you. I texted Tim before this episode and I said, I did say something harsh. I said Jake may be banned from Roundtable. And with me saying that, I felt like that was rude, and I want to get ahead of that now. And he goes, "Oh, you watched Alter State?" And I said, "Watched is not the word I would use. I stared at the screen, but I don't know what I just saw. This movie is not a Cody movie." At all. I'm gonna be wrong. William Hurt has done 2 movies from the 80s that Kiss of the Spider. I think what is that movie called?
Kiss of the Spider Woman. Yeah.
Kiss of the Spider Woman. He had a wild 80s, and this is no question. You're right. These movies don't. They're just not my cup of tea because I don't know what is happening. You can call it complex. You can call it like a different form, like of thinking about film. I am a person that loves a beginning, middle, and end of a film, like a solid plot line. I couldn't find it in this movie. We were all over the place from Jump Street. It is a visual diarrhea that happens all over the screen. Like it changes and moves and like. All over the place. It made me laugh out loud at times, which I don't know if it's appropriate to do. It made me like pause and rewind because I don't know what I missed. And I like to give the movie just I tried. I didn't put everything away, no distraction, just tried. It just didn't hit for me. That monkey sequence was almost one of the most laughable things I have ever seen in film. And I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh at it. And maybe some people on this channel have a different opinion on this movie. No one saw it before this, but I don't know what I was getting out of it. So I'm sorry for that, Jake. But I'm glad that you brought it so I can have a frame of reference now of movies.
I watched this on my phone.
Oh my god.
So sorry for that one, Jake. But I will say this.
That's disgusting.
It's not as disgusting as Nazario watching Godzilla versus Kong on his phone and going, it's cinema. But anyway, I really liked William Hurt in the movie. I thought he was really good. I thought that the sex scene 7 minutes in was a little, whoa, what are we doing here? Didn't know this was coming.
Apparently, William Hurt was the go-to person for sweaty sex scenes in the 80s. Between this and Body Heat, and all
really
those,
sweaty, nipples were flying, and I was uncomfortable. Let me tell you. But I just honestly, I do like weird shit. I'm okay with movies that are weird like this. This one just didn't really hit for me. Like I said, I thought William Hurt was good in the movie. With what he was asked to do. And honestly, but I'm with Cody, the whole monkey thing and the whole ending and everything. I get what the movie is going for and trying to say. But it just it was one of those things where it was so outlandish that it lost me. So for example, another movie that I watched shortly after seeing this was The Fountain, which I had never seen before. And I really enjoyed The Fountain because to me that felt like it's really outlandish, a lot of visual craziness going on. Aronofsky's very much into that shit. And they felt very similar to me, and where The Fountain got up to a higher rating for me was because of just the overall message and aesthetic and everything throughout the movie. And this it didn't feel, I agree with I'm more on the side of I feel like I know what the movie was trying to say, and I do think there was a beginning, a middle, and an end. I just don't think it was, I don't think what it was saying was all that interesting or what's the word, not relevant, but just interesting, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know, it didn't work for me. The monkey shit was really wild. Honestly, if the whole movie had been that, you probably would have had me. If that happened an hour earlier in the movie, he unlocks this weird part of his mind and turns into a fucking monkey, a wolf man, cool, I'm there for it. But yeah, I don't know. It was just definitely not a Cody movie, that's for sure. But I would say it's a Tim movie, just not a Tim movie that I liked very much. And I was gonna make another point, and now I totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, I don't know. It was a little too much in the back half to make up for everything. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm really curious to know what Brian and Kirk thought about this one for sure. Because I knew Cody wasn't going to dig this, but I'm really curious to know what they think.
Yeah, I thought out of this panel, I thought I was Jake's best chance to enjoy this. I do barely nothing about the movie. But when I saw the poster, I'm like, Brian's going to hate this. I'm different with Tim. The movie kind of lost me with William Hurt. I don't think he was bad. I don't think he's a bad actor. He's never been somebody he's never sold a movie for me, but he's never been a turnoff. He's just kind of a guy that's there. And for this movie, the parallel I drew that I kept thinking was The Fly. I kept thinking The Fly with this. And I think if you're going to do a movie like that where there's no clear antagonist, where it's just man versus self, man versus nature, you need a Goldblum kind of actor who is maybe not the greatest technical actor in the world, but who their charm and their charisma, their personality is going to draw you in and just make you care about what they're doing and what they're trying to do. And Hurt didn't do that for me. So I think that was one of the places the movie lost me. The monkey stuff is actually where I honed in. And like you said, Tim, if okay, because when that happened, I thought, okay, now we've gotten to what's going to happen, and then the rest of the movie will be dealing with that. And I'm like, okay, I'm on board now. This is cool. We kind of have the framework of the rest of the story. Let's go. And then that just kind of never happened again. It just went back to all the weird stuff. So I was trying to find that through line that I could follow. I never quite found it. I do think some of the ideas were interesting. Some of the stuff that was put forth. I liked the stuff in the desert and all those hallucinations was probably my least favorite part of it. Yeah. I liked the second half a lot better. But yeah, I just wish there had been. Again, I wish there had been a character to latch onto strong. Maybe it's not even Hurt's fault. Maybe it's the character wasn't that strong. I just wish there was a stronger central character for me to latch onto, care about. And I wish, like I said, there had just been more of a through line of a story. We'll probably talk about more of the weird stuff that, I just didn't understand. I was on board. Was like, okay, this all happened in his head, and it lost me. It was like, okay, now it's just exploding everywhere. There's pyrotechnics and there's lights because of what's happening in his brain. That's where the movie kind of lost me.
Because I do think Brian's about to surprise us because he kind of did a little. But if Brian liked
if he likes us, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed.
But no, what you said that perfectly verbalized it for me, Kirk, was the through line. What was that? I didn't feel like there was a good through line throughout the movie. That there were lots of moments that I obviously didn't care for, but there was never something to get me through the whole thing from A to B to C. Mm-hmm. I get what A was doing, I get what B was doing, and I get what C was doing, but there was nothing connecting it all to make it work as an overall piece for me. And now Brian is
go to Brian because I have to jump in after him. I'm so baffled at some of the stuff said. So hold on. Go ahead, Brian.
So I heard this title and I'd seen seen it on the shelf in the video store when I worked on years ago and things like that. But I never really knew what this movie was. I think whenever I thought of this movie, I got it confused with the Brain Scan. So I'm going into this movie thinking that this is that movie or something like that. And so I didn't know what this movie was going in. And what I was not understanding is that the title is basically trying to tell you need to be in an altered state to watch this fucking movie. This movie's fucked up. I don't know. The first half of it, I was trying to go along with it. I can live with the psychobabble mumbo jumbo, and it got into some weird psychedelic imagery and things like that. I'm like, okay, whatever. This is not for me, but I'm all for checking out new stuff. But yeah, and then when it got into the second half with the ape or Cro-Magnon or whatever he's supposed to be, when he actually turned into him, I'm like, that's where it really started to lose me. And then by the end, when it's going full on, basically Cronenberg body horror. And I'm just like, I was not caring for this movie at all, honestly. When I thought about it, I thought the thing I connected it more to, which it's also not a good movie, but better than this in my opinion. I thought this felt a lot like that Johnny Depp movie Transcendence to me, where it's the scientists kind of pushing the edge of these scientific experiments to try and see where human evolution is going to go and all this kind of thing. And so I kind of had that same kind of vibe to me as far as what the very basic plot of the movie was. I don't think they're very much alike in terms of their style and things like that. But that's the one I kind of connected it more to. So yeah, I was not big on it. I did enjoy seeing John Larroquette pop up in an early role as an X-ray technician. Very early pre-ET Drew Barrymore was in this briefly.
Bob Balaban.
Yeah,
Drew Barrymore was in this.
Yeah,
what's
she's
that?
one of the daughters, the youngest
daughters.
of the two.
Yeah. I don't even think she has a speaking role. I think
this is William Hurt and Drew Barrymore's first film. This is their film debut.
And I say before Cody jumps back in and is upset with me and Kirk. I did actually I agree with what Brian just said about the body horror Cronenberg stuff. That I actually liked the technical side of this movie where I thought that technically speaking, it was very well done. And the actual transformation and that type of stuff was really well done.
Yeah, for 81, we're no 80. Yeah,
80,
very effective for its time. But on the whole, just like I've said over and over again.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's an audience for this movie. There are people that even just body horror movies, that kind of thing, and psychedelic movies. That's not my. I know that you even said in your review, Jake, that's kind of your thing, and more power to you. Clearly not mine. For me, I'm just sad that this is now going to sit in my voodoo collection from now on. I wish I could delete.
Hey, same. Hey, Brian, you want to know? You want to know what the audience of this movie looks like? You want to know?
Yeah.
It's just this. It's just this. This is the audience.
So The body horror is not my cup of tea at all. I like video. What is it? Cronenberg's
Videodrome.
Videodrome.
Yeah.
Video
Couldn't stand it. Not a fan. Gross. I'm totally out of that shit. I don't like it. It doesn't do anything for me. You two, Kirk and Tim, talked about things again, and you may be more complex film fans than me, and I applaud both of you. You saw through lines. I saw fucking chaos on the screen for 2 hours. I don't know what through line we're at. I think the main problem with this movie, and I don't know, I guess maybe other people feel different. I can't gravitate towards a movie like this if I have no feeling or care for the person going through the stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care what he's going because I don't know what he's going through because I've never fucking I don't understand what he's going through because he's in the tank and all this shit starts happening and I understand I know the concept of the movie and where it goes, but my viewpoint is I just couldn't give a shit. I could give a shit less about him because I don't know why or like there's no reason behind any of the stuff that he was doing. Like for me, like it just jumped in and he started doing it to go through it. That's my problem. I don't see the through line, and I'm sorry when they opened that door to that the ape man, and he went and like ran. I couldn't stop laughing. I was broken at that point.
With you, honestly, like
I do too, because when he did the people had to come check out on me in the house. I'm like, "Are you okay?" I was laughing at an uncontrollable level because I was like, because I've seen for an hour and a half at that point just crazy imagery this entire time of just wacky shit, and then all of a sudden the ape man sitting there. It's like there's a beast in there, and then and he just runs, and I'm just like. I was just checked, and again, I did have high expectations for it, but I guess the difference between this movie and the Hardway had elements that I could find my way into. Like at Zero, it looked ridiculous, but it had those stuff that I'm going to be interested in. I couldn't see a start point, an end point, a middle. The ending of it and all was just wild. But I mean, this is the exact reason for the roundtable because I would have never watched this movie ever without it.
I mean, it's something new.
No,
yeah.
Every time I watch a new movie, I'm happy. Like I if I get to experience something different and new and have a conversation, like I'm 100% with Cody on that. Like
I was just thinking
this is a good thing at the end of the day.
I was thinking the entire time. If there's a person that likes this movie and knows it well enough, this is the greatest, ultimate, deep-cut movie I have ever seen in the history of movies. Because how can you tell? You'd have to watch this 14 times to try to get notes down for it. It is wild what's shown. You can ask anything.
First thing the monkey says after the
But I'll say, Cody, that I mean, I might have been a little unclear. What I was saying is I was looking for that through line and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying too.
I thought when we got to the monkey, I thought we had it because, like I said, up until that point, it had just been hallucination. It was just a random collection of these visions or whatever. And I thought, okay, now we're condensing into an actual story.
Can somebody?
And when the monkey popped out, that's why I was like, oh, okay, it's something that happened. And now we can go from here. But then it was just after that, it was just another tank experience. And that's what the movie kind of lost because I thought, why are we going back to the tank? And then the fact that it just ends with, he's able to defeat whatever it is by punching a wall and changing the channel on himself until he gets back to being a person. I'm like, I would have preferred the monkey ending to whatever that.
Monkey. He's a monkey forever.
Yeah.
I'll let Jake go, but I do have an honest question. And after you're done, go ahead, Jake.
Okay, I was gonna say I can at least try and I'll explain some of the things, at least what I got from the movie, and Cody, you were saying that there wasn't really, or some of you said that there's no through line or there's no start and finish. I would say that there kind of is, in the sense that Jessup is at first exploring the effects of schizophrenia, and that sort of transitions and becomes him sort of exploring the human consciousness and is other altered states of awareness or of consciousness as real as our waking state? Like when we dream, is that just as real as us waking? And that's why he's taking these hallucinogenic drugs here in the deprivation tank, is to try and explore, can we push the human mind? And when Kirky was saying that when you finally got into the movie was when he turned into a monkey, like there was actually something going on. I kind of disagree. It kind of happens earlier when he has blood coming from his mouth and he's unable to speak, like, and then they do the X-ray and then you discover that, oh wait, his ribcage, his skeleton is that of a gorilla. Like you start to see the things slowly sort of come into that.
Yeah, setting all that up.
In my mind, that's him regressing and de-evolving into Cro-Magnon, like an early state of humanity. And then in the final sort of, I guess, hallucination, visual sort of trippiness that happens, he goes further into humanity's sort of evolution and becomes something that doesn't even have a physical form. Like it's just something that's just full of these things that we can barely even process.
And that might have been what it was, Jake. Like when he turned into a monkey, I have a frame of reference for that. I understand what they're saying, like where he's going. Like I don't understand what like static person is. You know what I mean? Like at the end when he just all these are like, I don't know what that means, and maybe that's why it lost me, because I can wrap my head around the fact, okay, he's de-evolved like an earlier version of man. And maybe that's why I like that better, because I had a grasp on it. When it was just like those weird special effects, there may be something I just don't understand that represents, because but you said like that's going so far back and that's so esoteric and so like just theoretical that like
I get that.
You know what I mean? I didn't know. I'm like, okay, what does this even mean now? I didn't have anything like.
What does it mean when he like turns his wife into the
like
Human Torch? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Can somebody explain the ending for me? I felt like this was a YouTube video that I need to see as altered state ending explained, because I'm going to be honest, I don't know. He's just living with it at this point. Like this is just the world.
At that point, he doesn't need the hallucination. Yeah, I can't even say it. The mushroom to like to transition to
just
change.
Do what he's doing.
At that point, he's done it enough times where he can do it on its own. Like, and it sort of starts to have that process. And I think it's him just fighting it and sort of maintaining control and like fighting it. And that also helps him fight with his wife, because
withdraw from drugs.
It's about a man connecting with a woman. Like that's what the whole movie is essentially about. Like he's so at the beginning, he's so fixated on his work that even when when he's early in the schizophrenia research, like he meets Emily and they have 2 kids, but then there's a bit of a time jump, and they're now like on the brink of divorce. Like you have the conversation with Bob Balaban and his wife, and it's like things are now strained. He's so like fixated on his work that doesn't even care about his wife. Like that's sort of what I got, is that there's an emotional disconnection between him and humanity. Like he has this whole thing with his father and his parents and how they died, and he sort of lost his faith in God. There's a whole religious sort of like allegory and symbolism in the movie as well.
There's a lot of religious undertones.
I mean, you see hell. You see like just visually hell, or at least how he views hell in sort of his sort of like knowledge of it. But the whole movie is about him sort of connecting with his wife, and I mean it's corny in general, but like in this movie, it's like love conquers all. It's a very much like connecting and finally being with someone that you love, and like at the end, like he does. I mean, throughout the movie, he never even says like "I love you." It's only until the end when he like finally admits that like he's in love with Emily. And they sort of have that. That's why the ending is just the 2 of them like naked. Like they finally have. He finally admits that he loves her and has a human connection.
Okay, so we're gonna go around and get scores for Alter State. Jake, what's the score?
I think I was gonna give this 4 stars, but honestly, I'm giving it 4.5 stars. I love this movie.
Highest of the night, guaranteed. Tim.
2 from me.
Kirk.
You're muted.
I'm floating between 2 and 2.5. Like I said, I respect the movie. Like I said, it gave a lot to chew on, and a lot to think about. But just from what I was able to take away from it, I'll probably end up at around 2.5.
Brian.
This is a solid 1 for me.
This is a half star for me.
I toyed with that.
Wow.
I had a miserable time, and I'm sorry for that. I did. If I have to watch something after the movie to understand shit, and I'm not Zach Ford. My brain's not that complex. I can't understand shit. But maybe if I took the drugs in this movie, I would get it. Okay, so we're going on to our second to last movie of the night. We are going 12 Monkeys. Tim, take it away.
Yeah, I picked this because I've been wanting to watch this for a really, really long time. Just on the like the notoriety of it. I honestly didn't know much about it. I know there's like a TV show that has been made since, but like I had heard a lot of things about it, and I've always wanted to watch it. I bought it recently on 4K, and I had actually decided, to pop it in and start it. And then Cody added me to the green room, and I was like, you know what? This will just be my movie. Like, great. So I threw it in, and I loved this movie. I really did. It kind of follows some generic, maybe at this point, like sci-fi tropes, but I feel like it's done really, really well. I loved Bruce Willis in this. I thought he was fantastic. Really liked Brad Pitt as well. But I thought Bruce Willis, like, as kind of this, like, guy who is being sent like back in time, forward in time, back in time to try to stop like a kind of like revolution thing almost. Like, it was just really interesting. Like, and I thought just the way that like the sci-fi elements were done, really impressive. And this is Terry Gilliam, I don't know. Who I honestly didn't know anything about until Maggie and I watched The Fisher King, which I also really, really loved. That movie is incredible. And I didn't even realize that he was like a Monty Python guy until I saw that movie. And so then to see this, I was super impressed. I just, like I said, I love science fiction, and I thought that this was just kind of like the perfect vehicle for Bruce Willis, and kind of the way that he's like losing his mind almost, but also just like trying to figure out like the mystery of everything that's going on the whole time. Like I just wound up really, really enjoying it. And I was super surprised because, like I said, the whole time I've heard of this movie. Like, I've seen it at, stores growing up, and rental stores and Best Buy and whatnot. And then I finally decided to pick it up on the 4K and finally give it a chance. And now I want to go and explore the show and rewatch the movie and kind of see like if it can be expanded upon at all, because I found the story just so interesting and the characters all really, really great. And again, I think I didn't know this until after the movie was over, and I actually messaged Cody again, bringing up Koho, of like, Brad Pitt was nominated, so that means he's like the best. Like, I didn't know any of that going into it. I just, watched the movie, thought Bruce Willis was incredible, and then afterwards found out that Pitt had been nominated, and really, really liked both of their performances. And that honestly, like, Bruce Willis is one of those guys where, like, if he's in the right role, he is such a good actor. Like this, Pulp Fiction, like the first Die Hard. Like, I really like Bruce Willis, and I think this was one of those movies that, like, it kind of even proved it to me more that, like, in his element, he is such a good actor. I was shocked how much I liked this by the end of it. And even though the ending is kind of telegraphed from the beginning, like, I'm a dumbass. Like, I talk about that a lot when I talk about movies where, like, I don't see twists coming often. And so, like, I had a guess, but when it happened, I was still like, oh man. So yeah, as you can tell, I really enjoyed this one.
This movie's been on a watch list for a really long time. And I don't know why it's been on watch list for a really long time. And I'd say that I liked a lot of elements of this movie. I really did. The problem resides with the director. I've just decided I'm not a huge fan of his work. Everybody knows how I feel about Monty Python. The Fisher King, which a movie that I should really just like be my movie and love. I think it like the world it creates is like too much, and I think that's the problem in this movie for me a lot. Like, it's just like maybe too like I know it's futuristic, I know that stuff, so I'm not trying to like nitpick that stuff, but like even that stuff was like over, and where the camera was shot and like stuff, it was just like a lot of the over the topness for me that just drew me, like made me like question like why does he have to go like it just extra shit that didn't matter. I love the story of it. The story of it made it really interesting. I that's what made me like fall more into it. But like, and Brad Pitt's character and like those different elements, and I love that. It was just it never clicked like perfectly like where it could go for me. So that was my problem with it. You're curious everybody else's thoughts. 12 Monkeys. I know some of you guys have already seen the movie before. Is that right? Like with Kirk and Brian, you've seen it, right?
I saw it when it first came out, so I mean, it's been forever for me, and I'm glad Tim picked it because this has been on my rewatch list for a while. Because the first time I saw it, like I didn't know who Terry Gilliam was when this movie came out, or anything about him. But Gilliam overall, what I've seen is hit or miss. Like I don't always love his movies, but I do like his style. I like the Dutch angles and the wonky, just the way everything's kind of like, the unreality of it. And that's one of the things because most of the time, again, the movie I compared this to the most was Brazil because it has like that dystopian future kind of feel to it. But that movie and a lot of his other movies, at least the ones I've seen, always have like kind of a little more like comedic or satiric tone. And this had that, but it was more of a serious story. So I like that his aesthetic put to a more not grounded story, but just more, like dramatic story. And I just love, I love the fact that, the future obviously was completely bonkers, but even the past, like the modern day stuff, which should have just been like normal things, was still had like that Terry Gilliam look at it. Like there's a scene in the I think it's in the mental hospital when he's running away, and there's a guy working on the ceiling, like he's doing like light bulbs or something, and instead of being on a ladder, he's on stilts. Like he's walking around on stilts, changing light bulbs. It's just like the weirdest thing. It's like what, and that's like just like that Terry Gilliam flair that I love. But I really appreciate it for that. I love Brad Pitt in this. I could see why like some people might not like it, might just be off-putting. But I just love what Brad Pitt was doing, like in the mid to late '90s, like just the choices he was making, and just how crazy he goes with the eye. Some of the best middle fingers in cinematic history he's throwing out here. He's just so much fun. I think he's a really good. A really good foil for Bruce Willis's character, and I just love the opposing arcs of Bruce Willis and Marilyn Stowe, where he, like she starts out saying he's crazy, and like they kind of like cross, where he's starting to think, and he's starting to think he's crazy, or he's starting to think what he believes is crazy, and she's starting to believe all of it. I think is really cool, and just the idea of him wanting to be crazy, because if he's crazy, it means the horrible future he lives in isn't real. I thought was really cool too. So yeah, a lot of fun with it. I really enjoyed it. Watch it.
So I had also seen it back when it first came out. I've seen it several times since then as well. Terry Gilliam is a director who and also an actor back in like Monty Python and stuff that I always like, because I love the Monty Python stuff. There's some of his 80s stuff I'm not as into, and actually most of his like 2000 and on stuff I'm not that into, but I think the 90s were like his prime. I think with Fisher King I absolutely loved, and then this one and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas are I think his three best movies. And so I think this was like smack in the middle of his prime. Not counting the Monty Python stuff, of course. But I mean, he's also a director who I fully understand if people aren't into his style, because it definitely is. There's a definite Terry Gilliam style. It's a whole surrealism kind of thing going on. There's kind of like Tim Burton. If you watch a movie, it's a Tim Burton movie. You watch this, it's a Terry Gilliam movie, just from the style of it. But I mean, I like that because I had loved Fisher King, so I knew going in I'd probably like this, and I very much did. The cast I thought was great because like Bruce Willis, this came out the same year as Live Free or Die Hard. Not Live Free, Die Hard with a Vengeance. And then with Brad Pitt was just coming off of all of his long hair pretty boy roles in Legends of the Fall and Interview with the Vampire and all this stuff. And he was becoming this big pinup, and everybody thought he was the dreamiest actor. So what did he do? He like chopped off all his hair, put in a wonky eye, and started acting like a psycho. And I thought that was great. It's kind of like I've talked about lately with Daniel Radcliffe. It's like, they said, I'm not going to be, typecast and pigeonholed. I'm going to take this image of people have of me and throw it away and just pick crazy projects. And I think Brad Pitt did a great job at this point of kind of turning and really prolonging his career by making these kind of choices. But yeah, I really like that. There's a great, if you like feature length documentaries, there's one made about this movie called The Hamster Factor and Other Tales of the 12 Monkeys. If you want to see that, check it out. It's on like the DVD and stuff. I don't know if you have it, if library has it, something like that. It's probably somewhere online, but it's because Terry Gilliam does not work well in the studio system. So it's a lot of conflict going on there. If you ever seen Lost in La Mancha, you see it goes on there too. But yeah, I really enjoy this movie.
I had not seen this movie before. This is like something that I feel like I should have discovered like 10 years ago, honestly. But no, I loved this movie. This movie was like incredible. I'm a big fan of just movies that deal with the concept of time. Like time travel movies is its own subgenre of science fiction. And this movie does play with the ideas of changing the past and can we actually change the past? Is the whole the grandfather paradox? That whole stuff I thought was really interesting. The thing that I didn't really know about the movie is that it's also playing with reality and sort of just the ideas that with Bruce Willis and the fact that he's in the mental hospital and he's just like, as the movie goes on, he is questioning himself and is anything actually happening? It kind of weird comparison, but it reminded me, there's a couple of scenes in Moon Knight where you start to think, oh, is this just all in his head? Is he just coming up with everything? And that's sort of what it reminded me of with 12 Monkeys in the sense that like, oh yeah, this whole plot, you've created this in your head. You gave the idea to Brad Pitt, like with the 12 Monkeys. And sort of the idea that it plays with, oh, wait a minute, is this just a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like, are we just destined to repeat our failures? And I thought that was definitely the most interesting aspect for me. And the whole idea between free will and predetermination, like, are we able to control our destinies or is this just fixed? Are we just destined to just make the same mistakes again? Really, really enjoyed that. I think Brad Pitt's also really he's fantastic. It's weird because Brad Pitt just most of the times, and he's pretty good at it, but like a lot of his roles he's playing Brad Pitt. Like I love him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but he's just playing like just a slightly more interesting Brad Pitt if he was a stunt actor in that sort of sense. But I love him in this. I think he's just really playing a character. And I think that is like the right time for him to be able to play a character like this because post 2000 when he's, did the height of Brangelina and he's making movies where he's himself generally like the action, like the Ocean's movies, he's just playing just a character that's very much like him. I think it's just great to see him really show why he is one of the most biggest actors in Hollywood right now, and the way he's able to play this psychotic character I thought was really interesting. I thought this movie just had a lot that I really am really interested in, and just the idea of time and can we change things is really interesting to me.
There's actually one of my favorite moments of the movie. Kirk was talking about how Bruce Willis' character is starting to think that maybe he was crazy after all, and Madeline Stowe's starting to believe everything. But then there's that moment where she goes and leaves the message on the voicemail for the carpet cleaning service, and she goes back and goes, "We're fine, we're right. It was all none of it's real, all this stuff." And she starts saying the message, and he knows it. And at that point, you see on his face, he realizes, "Oh shit, it was real. This is all happening." And where he was all happy, also he's just like, "Oh." And that was one of my favorite moments in the movie, that kind of twist to it. I also loved, we're talking spoilerific here, but at the end of the movie where, you find out that Brad Pitt's thing wasn't even what it was about, and it turned out to be the whole other character. And then that last moment on the plane, which kind of shows that, well, wait, Bruce Willis actually did something because now maybe things will be prevented. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great, just kind of ambiguous ending there with,
God, that was
I'm in insurance. It's a great ending.
Insurance, yeah. It's just
I just think
what happens next.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting, like how Kirk was like, I love the style of Terry Gilliam like that, and it's the stuff that drove me absolutely bonkers in this movie. And the overkill of stuff, we're futuristic, but we're gonna over the top and how it's shot. That was my only takeaway. But overall, the concept of the movie I think was actually a brilliant way, and I would like to see I know it's weird, but maybe not saying a remake or whatever, but I see where this could go like different places, something else in that universe.
Has anyone
So I
watched
think
the
it's
series? I've never
That's,
watched.
haven't
that's why
seen it.
I
I've
want to
not.
watch the series, because I want to see somebody else's take on the story. And if
It's interesting because this is actually a remake or partially inspired.
Yeah, short
There's a
film.
French short film called Le Chate. I think it's the 60s. I can't remember. An experimental short. It's essentially just still photography, and that's how it presents the story. Like not like a collage, but just like here's a shot. Here's a shot. No motion. It's just photography as the short. And I believe is it Universal that did this?
Yes.
I can't remember.
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Universal got the rights, and they were like, Terry Gilliam was a big fan, and he was like, I got to make it 12 Monkeys. And then they wrote it, and it's very much like an American interpretation, but with an auteur filmmaker like Terry Gilliam. I like Terry Gilliam. Like I haven't seen all of his movies, but like the ones I've seen, I like Munchausen and Fear and Loathing Las Vegas is one of my favorite movies ever. And I think that, surprise. And I think that he really added something interesting to this movie that a lesser filmmaker would just like completely ruin with the source material and the script.
Fear and Loathing is psychedelic done right.
This was a great double feature with Altered States. Watch these two back to back. That's a lot of fun.
I couldn't disagree with you more. Except the quality went up. My thing is,
was this the last one you watched, Cody?
No. My last, I just rewatched my movie. Right at the end. This is the last one I needed to. Not really. I needed to watch. I just did it. No. The interesting thing about this one is, this is a movie that I feel like I'm surprised more people haven't seen.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking on call, like, 3 of us never saw it. But think of the cast, the sci-fi elements, everything along with it. There's not a time in Blockbuster that I did not see the DVD or the VHS of the 12 Monkeys. I probably know this poster better than most posters out there because of that eye. It's like, it has always been burnt in. I'm like, and again, that was 20 years ago. And I still hadn't seen it until somebody brought it around to. So really interesting how it plays into it. I think it's interesting just how Terry Gilliam, like the movies he makes, he creates a world that it's very, the way I feel it, and it's not a shot at it, which coming from me sounds like a shot. It's like a Tim Burton-esque like the world he's able to build and stuff, like the crazy stuff he's able to go with. It's very Tim Burton-esque for me. Reason why I don't like it, yes, art house Tim Burton is the best way to put it. But no, I would love to see like more in this world. I think it's a very interesting way concept of where it's going. Get overall scores for 12 Monkeys, Tim.
4 stars. I could see it going up on rewatch, but 4 for now. I really loved it.
I swear I saw 4 when he logged it the first time, but apparently it was not him. It was the wildest thing. When he brought this up, I was like, you already logged the movie, but it wasn't him. Somebody else in this community watched 12 Monkeys at the same time. Jake.
I'm torn between 4 and 4.5. Like I really, really like this movie a lot. And I imagine I would get more out of it on a second viewing. I think for now I'll just play it safe and say 4 stars. Like I got a lot out of it, and I think I might get more now that I know what I'm getting myself into, and I could pay attention to certain details because the way the movie plays out, it's definitely you get a lot more on multiple viewings when you know how, like with the shit with the graffiti and like with the phone calls, I'll be able to be tuned in more into that, knowing what's going to come later. So I'm going to say 4 stars.
Besides his British comedies, Terry Gilliam keeps with his 3.5 streak with me. It's 3.5 for me. Kirk?
It'll be 3.5 for me right now. If I go back to it, which I hopefully will, we'll take another 20 years for me to get back to it. It'll probably very likely to go up. It's gonna be 3.5 for now.
Brian,
I already had mine rated on Letterboxd. You already know mine's 4 stars. I had already seen it long ago.
Audience. So our last movie we will be talking about is Doubt. Down is a movie that I brought in. It's the person I have to credit to is Kaleb Boatman. Kaleb Boatman told me to watch this. I once ended my night watching this. Very bad idea for me. It was a movie that I didn't want to really go to sleep on. But Down is the reason why I picked it is I think it is just a movie that I would like more people to see and talk about. Because as the title things, I think it leaves you with some questions, some doubts, some thoughts, like how you overall feel how the movie went. And I think the three leads is what you could basically call them, with one scene, Viola Davis is absolutely incredible. I just think overall, when I watched this, I thought just this movie is so much about creating tension and I wouldn't say suspense, but uneasiness about every situation that is put in front, because it never gives you clear answers. It dances around all the answers on there, but doesn't give you a clear one. You basically have two alphas, kind of, with Streep and Hoffman, of their own different area. One of older rules are put in place for a reason, and kind of like a modern priest at that time, wanting to kind of change the church and the ways, which makes Meryl Streep look into more of his stuff that he does with a fine-tooth comb, and creates some doubt in the character, while Amy Adams is new and just looks for the best in everything. And then all those worlds kind of combine with it. So overall, initial thoughts from everybody will, just when you feel inclined, go ahead and talk about it.
I watched.
Oh, go ahead, Kirk. Go ahead.
I watched this the first time for your top 100, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really great movie. So I went back and watched it again just for the show, just to make sure I was fresh on it. My favorite thing about this movie is how it handles the characters, just the nuance to it. Before I'd watched it the first time, I really didn't know anything about it. I knew it was about, the Catholic Church and some kind of scandal. So I start watching it, and they're setting Meryl Streep up, and she's very harsh and she's hard on the kids and everything. And I'm like, okay, it's a movie, and you have the older conservative religious authority figure. Obviously, she's going to be the villain. She's going to be the one covering it up. Amy Adams is going to come in as the the young bright-eyed person looking to change things, and she's going to be the one going up against that. And the point at which there's a certain scene where Amy Adams and Streep are together, and you realize that Streep's going to be the bulldog going after this and trying to, make things right, at least in her eyes. That really subverted the expectation. I think it's cool because you really don't see, those kind of characters set up in any way. I don't know if you would call her the protagonist of this movie, but someone who's looking to do the right thing. Most of the times in modern movies, you're not going to see that with a character like that. So I really appreciated that. And just the performances between, the scene, there's two scenes basically with Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman together, and they just blow it out of the water, man. They are just so good. And just the two of them going at it. Like you said, Cody, you're never given everything. You're just really getting their viewpoints on it. You never get the objective truth to it. And just watching them dance around that is just so beautiful. And it's just, the movie is paced so well. Watch it the second time. I'm sitting, it gets to one of the scenes at the end, and I'm thinking, I've only been watching this for a half hour. How is it already here? And the movie was almost over. That's how fast it breezes by, just because of perfectly paced. It's based on a play, and you can tell it's based on a play in the best possible ways. Just the way it's framed out, and just the way how thematically how it works. Just how much, just every line of dialogue, every scene, it just plays into the themes and the different characters and where their viewpoints and where they stand. So yeah, I mean, it's the perfectly crafted movie.
Yeah, I kind of go ahead.
Okay. I don't I talk about it too much, but I consider myself a very religious person. I'm not Catholic, but I consider myself very religious. And so these types of movies always pique my interest big time, because I like to see kind of a deconstruction of religion, and the pros and cons, and the people that put put themselves into it and whatnot. And honestly, Cody's been telling me to watch this movie for 2 years. Like, I think it was during the pandemic that he watched it for the first time and was like, dude, you would love this movie. And I just haven't gotten around to it. But finally I was happy to really finally watch it. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, fucking, like, what a disaster that we lost him when we did, because like he is such a good actor. Like there are times when like I watch a movie and I go, this guy sucks. Like I could act better than this guy. Like, come on. Like I acted in high school. Like I was in theater. Like, come on. And then you watch a movie like this where him and Meryl Streep in that scene towards the end when they are just going at each other for 20 minutes straight, where it's insanity how good they both are. And there's just not many Philip Seymour Hoffman roles I have yet to witness. There's only a few left. And I'm honestly a little sad that like I don't get to experience this one for the first time again, because the movie was really powerful and like in its execution and performances. And I think I was talking to Boatman about it. I was expecting Amy Adams to be the lead for some reason, just going into it. I had, based off, I don't know what, the poster or something going on in my brain, I just assumed she was the lead of the film. And then when I kind of realized it was going to be more, Hoffman v. Streep, it actually worked for me super well. Like Streep is so good in this. And that, like I said, that final scene between Hoffman and Streep, and then the final scene between Streep and Adams, like those two in conjunction with each other are just like incredible. And I love when a movie is based off of a play and it feels right, like this one. Maggie like hates that. She's like, oh, it feels like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Like that was one where like we walked down, we were like, you could tell that was based off of a play. Like I'm not a big fan of that. But then something like this, where it was like they took advantage of like the settings and the story for film. I thought it worked really, really well. This one affected me big time. I really liked this. And even though I guess they're kind of similar, but also like from different perspectives. Like it gave me a lot of Spotlight vibes just based on like the subject material. Like obviously Spotlight's from like the investigative side of it, but just like any type of movie like this where we're trying to uncover corruption inside of something. And the fact that Cody alluded to it, like the whole time, you don't actually know if it's legit or not. Like you want to side with Meryl Streep and Amy Adams because you're assuming that that's the way that it's going to go, but you're never told 100% if that's the truth or not. And it's up to you to kind of say it. And I'm actually really interested to rewatch it because Boatman said that he's seen it quite a few times. And he said that every time he watches it, he comes away with a different idea at the end of it. And that's really interesting to me. So I'm looking forward to rewatching it to see if I have that same experience.
Yeah, I think they kind of punctuate that at the end when her last line is "I have doubts," because even this person who's been harping on it and chasing it the whole time, she's not even sure anymore. I don't have a lot more to add. Actually, Kirk said most of everything I kind of agreed with. I think that Streep early on, like in her first appearances, I thought she's playing a little too cartoony, over the top, mean, as she's the mean nun. So I kind of thought she was going to be like the villain or whatever, not villain, but the antagonist. And Amy Adams would be the one who's on the side of right or whatever. But obviously that they completely subverted expectations, and it became a much more. She had a lighter and more nuanced performance the rest of the film. Philip Seymour Hoffman, I can acknowledge, is a great actor. But he's a great actor who plays a lot of roles that I don't enjoy watching. He's always playing cringy or creepy or unlikable characters. So for me, I mean, my favorite character of his will always be Dusty from Twister, because that's Philip Seymour Hoffman I enjoy watching. But the extreme. No, but So I mean, but the cast is great in this. The subject matter I think is something I'm not really into, deep, dramas, especially when you get into like religion and things like that. Those don't really appeal to me. But again, this is the kind of thing where you can I can acknowledge that something is just extremely well done. You can tell it's based on a play, but again, in the best ways. I like that it didn't take a hardline stance of, the church is turning a blind eye to this possible abuse, but it's not also saying, oh, they're taking care of it. It was more like, hey, he's leaving in June. Can we just let him diddle him till then? It's kind of like, whoa, what's this kind of weird approach they're taking? We're like, well, we'll just let it go because it's only like 6 more months. But this is a movie that is not anything I'm probably going to ever watch on my own, just for my own enjoyment. But I did enjoy what I saw, and I can respect it as a great film.
So I had never seen this movie until for this roundtable. This is a movie that I'd heard about for years, and I think a huge part of it is Cody advocating it, and Boatman, and a lot of the Kingsmen also really into this movie. I grew up religious. I grew up believing in God, and my family, like, that was a huge thing for us, and at the time, and I went to private schools and all that sort of stuff. I sort of kind of faded out, and now I'm an atheist, but I do like religious sort of movies, and I like movies that deal with that sort of ideas and spirituality. But this is a very good example of the type of movies that Cody likes and the type of movies that I like with altered states and doubt. Like, I'm a big fan of movies that really push the medium of film and try to create an experience that you couldn't with any other medium. Cody loves structure, loves just the performances and the dialogue, and movies that really are about actors and with ideas and a story that is clear cut and one that you can easily follow. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm a better film person than Cody or vice versa. The great thing about film is that it's an art form. You can interpret and take anything away from anything that's a film. And I like that. Oh, sorry. What did you say?
I was going to say, I didn't interrupt you, but I did find a common thread between the two movies that you both picked, that there was that search for objective truth, and is it there and can it be found? So I found that thread between your two movies, even though they were so completely different. I found that commonality there between them.
I just love as you said that Cody's face was like, what?
Yeah.
I was going to say that this is just a movie that I like, but it is not really a movie that I gravitate towards, the same way that Cody with Altered States. It's just the type of movie that I just don't really care much for. I do think it was good. I like the performances. I think everyone is stellar. I think the dialogue is the writing is great. Just movies based on plays is just not really something that I'm interested in. I like movies that really push the medium of film and really go with everything from the cinematography and editing and directing. That's just something that I'm a big fan of and gravitate towards when it comes to films. But I do appreciate what the movie is doing. Ooh.
Go ahead, sorry.
So I thought I hit something. But I really appreciate what the movie's doing and what it's trying to say. And just the idea that, can you have doubt? Especially a character like Streep and the way she just fully believes in what she sees or what she believes. And can you have doubts about that? I think that's sort of an interesting sort of idea that this movie is sort of examining.
I think the main thing, and I won't talk too long of it because we got a hard out, but my thing is this is such an interesting storyline too, with when you think about it, one, with the boy in question at the time this is happening, it's also civil rights at the exact same time. So when Viola Davis is brought in and says, hey, I have questions about your son's relationship with our priest, and her reaction was just let it go. Drop what you're doing, because if he can graduate from this, he can get into a better school and a better life thing. From our perspective as an audience, that's a shock and awe from parents. What are you talking about? But I could never imagine being in that shoes and her. Then what's your point? What do you need from me? If you get rid of the priest, leave my son out of it. That concept of it is brilliant to me. I love the scene where they bring in talking about the Christmas play, and like
That's a
the
great
differences between the two characters, right? Where she's like, "I'll take more sugar," and was like, "Oh, sweet tooth, huh?" Yeah, kind of. And the stirring of the cup, and you hear like all the motions, and like when Street brings up the kid's name, and Amy Adams like keeps pouring the tea because it's like the awkward situation, and like him wanting to bring Frosty the Snowman into it, and the final. Why did you bring me here for the Christmas play, or this?
Yeah.
And like when he's sitting there and talking about things, and she's like, "What are you writing over there with your ballpoint pen?" And he's like, "Oh, a sermon, intolerable." And like you was like, "Oh, it just comes to you like that." Like the tension is built off of that right then. And like when they're handing out the door, he's like, "I do not like how you handled the situation at all." And like it's just like this, like the shots and like the body language in this movie tells so much. I didn't know the first time I watched it that it was based on a play. It had that feeling, but I didn't look into it. I didn't go any deeper onto the movie. And it turns out I'm a fan of movies that are like plays. Like I love Fences. I love these movies that are very based on plays because I like that structure. Like Jake said, I like a beginning, middle, end. I know where the finish line is. I know where we're going to go. But when they have that, when he walks into the church after the first questions arise, and the eye is there, and he is just like staring at the eye when he walks by, like you still don't know. I love the breakdown at the end with Streep, and she's like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, what did you do?" I have doubts. And they're like, "What do you mean you have doubts? Like, you led this charge." And like, then that leaves you the questions: did she lead the charge because she didn't like where he was leading the church? Because that's a common theme like throughout religious like studies and stuff. So it's like this whole complex around it. I think the movie is still brilliant. I'm just glad more people got to watch it and see it. But yeah, I just think there's so much tension built in like such a short runtime of the movie, and such small, and it doesn't span like super like long. Like it's boom boom like pretty quick, and like I think it's brilliant. I kind of see what I don't disagree with Brian. Hoffman does play just some unlikable fucking people. I like his more performances, but I'm with you on that. Like if you looked at his list of things, you're like, God damn, you just play you were typecast as some awful people.
I think that's why I think that's why he's one of my favorite actors, is that he doesn't have an ego. Like he can play any character and be like, yeah, I'm going to commit. Like not the different movie, but his character in Happiness is like the most sleazy, like disgusting character ever. And
you in that movie.
I know, right?
But just I'm really glad you didn't bring that one.
No, oh god, no. I would never, honestly. But like he can play any character. I mean, I just like actors who will be in not necessarily our house, but will be in those type of movies like Happiness. But then he'll be the villain in Mission Impossible 3. Like he has such a variety of like performances and like filmography. I really like that about actors when they can do something like that. And I think Hoffman's just like so incredible.
So we're gonna go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think too what you're saying about how they set it up, like all the things like Frosty the Snowman, the ballpoint pen, all the things that makes her question him, or at least what like Amy Adams calls her out later, like you just don't like him because of those things. But like at the same time, it's giving us reason to not trust her. Because all those things like Frosty and the pen, like all that stuff is like just over the top things that like, okay, this person is coming from a place that we can't trust. So there's so many moving parts. It's so
to add to that of the moving parts, the movie does make a point too of like early on showing like the way that the nuns like sit there and have their dinner.
Yeah,
it's quiet, maybe a discussion, but it's quiet. You transition to the priests. They're sitting there, they're drinking alcohol, they're laughing.
Yeah.
They're making fun of other people in the congregation or parents or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so the movie almost paints it to make you like, it makes it look at it like, oh, well, they're like the priests are being assholes. But then is it just like, well, is that just how this religion is set up, or is this guy a fucking
Tradition
asshole?
versus
Like,
modern.
Well, there's a
What it
scene at the
is.
beginning too, and I know I picked up on this first time I watched it. I don't want to go too long because I know we're going to end soon. But there's that scene where he's giving that initial sermon on doubt, and he's talking about you know suffering through things alone. And he says nobody knows I'm sick, and they show that lady they go that cut to that lady in the pew, and she kind of looks down. He's like, nobody knows I've just lost my best friend. They show that guy, and you can tell it's affected him. And then he says nobody knows I did something wrong, and it cuts to him, and it just holds. So right off the bat, the movie's like casting doubt on him and his motivation.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And that's some of the stuff that Boatman brings up, because when you watch it, those things like I didn't pay attention as much as when he walks through and the eye is just like staring him down, basically, of like the eye of God, like looking down on what he's doing. It like brings more like whenever Boatman's always asked like, well, who do you think? And I was like, I've been on the side of Streep and I've been on the side of Hoffman numerous times. It's back and forth. I think it's the movie. The reason why I go to it a lot is because of those subject matters. I think it's very interesting, and again, I like those kind of movies. We'll get scores and then we'll wrap it up. I'll start. It's 5 for me. I watched this movie now 4 times. It's absolutely my cup of tea. It's everything I want in kind of a movie, and under 2 hours, so it's nice. We'll go, Jake. What's your score?
I liked it. I'm going to give it 3.5. It might go up on a second viewing. Just based on what Cope was saying, just make me go, wow, okay. There are things that I can pick up on a second viewing.
It bends the subject matter.
The subject matter, yeah. But I do like it, not as much as everyone maybe I'm going to assume, but I'm going to give it 3.5 stars.
Dude, 3.5 with you, that's a win for me. Brian?
I'm also at 3.5.
Total win. And Kirk?
It's a 4 right now. I am going to be. I know people I want to show this to, and I want to rewatch it and share it again. So this could definitely go up to 4.5.
Yeah, right.
It's like a 15.
Tim?
I'm at a 4 right now. This is 100% a Tim movie, so this could go up to a 5. I want to show it to Maggie. I want to watch it with her. So I'll be watching it again within the next year or so, and maybe it'll go up then.
So how I'm going to end the show every week, since we tape a month in advance, I also plan my shows a month in advance, so we also have another one. So I'm just going to bring up the full 5 movies that we will have on our next episode of the Roundtable after it airs. We'll probably put that graphic of the Roundtable up also. But it's going to be coming out in December. So the movies that I've selected from the panel, we have Targets, 1968 Targets, 1994 The Paper, 2014 Phoenix, The Death of Stalin, 2017, and The Happiest Season from 2020. The Kristen Stewart movie. So around Christmas time, I picked that. The people on the panel for that will be Brian Michaels, Scott Harvey, me, Thomas Scully, and Mike Hanley. So you can kind of decide what movie
did Mike Hanley pick.
Which one everybody picked. It's going to be a great time. Again, I love doing the show. So thank you all for being on. You will all be on a future episode again. We'll catch you next week or next month.